We have a great Browns film breakdown show lined up for you today. We have topics ranging from cornerback play to health off of injuries. We're going to do a lingering questions segment that we're going to do really several times through the summer of questions that just need answered, ways to think of things that are a little different than maybe we have thought leading into the season. So we have a couple of those today. Like I said, several of those will be coming. A reminder, 30% off at the website for an annual subscription. If you lock that in, you get the whole 25 season, 26 free agency, the 26 draft. You're locked in for all the important things coming on the Browns calendar for the next year. It's a great time to get in. Take advantage of that 30% off. The link in the description of this show, whether video or audio, can be found to get there and sign up with us. Join the best Browns community. Let's get going with the latest Browns Film Breakdown podcast. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Friday. It's Jake Burns, host of the show, and we're going to be talking about a couple different things. Kind of a quick hitting episode. It's not going to be too long, but I think there's some things lingering that I want to talk about, obviously, title of the podcast. And I also want to hit on what seems to be the most popular question in the Browns world about quarterbacks, right? I talked to Peter Moses the other day. He wanted to ask about predicting the depth chart. Everybody wants to know the depth chart. Who's going to start? And the reason you get this is because there's so much intrigue around the two young quarterbacks, particularly Shedeur. And then obviously you get an immense amount of interest around, any situation where four guys could possibly start. So you're going to see this question pretty frequently. It's going to be popular. It's going to be everywhere. And today's buzz-worthy, I guess this is the way to phrase it, buzz-worthy post comes from ESPN 850's interview with Daniel Jeremiah, where he goes on to lay out that he expects one of the rookies to start week one, which is a big prophecy from somebody connected inside the NFL really well, talks to a lot of GMs, talks to a lot of people that matter. So I'll share that with you right now, and then we're going to discuss what is a pretty hefty statement.
What about the Cleveland Browns quarterback race?
I feel like Flacco probably has his spot reserved, and then it's going to be 3 for 2. So you got those three young guys competing for the two spots, and I would say, based off of Gabriel where he was picked, based off of the ability, and I go back to Shedeur was my 20th player. He's a first-round caliber player. Like talent-wise, both those guys I think have a huge advantage over Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett has to be light years better than each of them to make the teams. To me, I think Joe Flacco is just in case they don't feel like they can be competent at the position, then you insert Joe. I think their week one starter is going to be, I think it's going to be one of those two rookies. I really feel that way.
Really? So you think Flacco will just wind up being a veteran presence in the quarterback room?
I think you have to learn this year. They made that trade, so they've got some ammunition for next year, and I'm just starting to peek at some of these quarterbacks. I'll have a better feel for what that could look like here over the next month. Next year at this time, they have to know what they have in those two rookies. They have to see them. They got to get one of them. And that's why, to me, I don't think you waste time. It's not, okay, let's let Joe Flacco, let these guys get comfortable, and then we can kind of maybe see who wins it between those two guys, and we insert them in week 8, week 10. You have to evaluate these two kids that you just drafted so that next year at this time, before the draft, before this next draft, you have some clarity of what you have on campus.
Look, I don't know if the Browns are going to take a proactive approach to this season with tanking. I don't want to say that. We're in June 20th right now. I think it's silly to project them as doing some sort of tank. I don't think anybody can afford that. I don't think they can live in a world off of last season where they're okay being bad. Now, if the season goes in that direction and it pushes toward the 3-quarter mark and you're seeing them make some decisions to say, hey, we're not going to make the playoffs, let's get as high a draft pick as we can. I think we saw it last year. You know me, I believe tanking happens from the bottom down or the top down. I think it's generally done from the front office. But I will just say that the idea that these rookies, one of them, a 3rd and a 5th round pick, end up being your starter week one would be pretty astonishing, because you do have two quarterbacks in the veteran world who are capable enough from the perspective of what this offense will ask them to do, I think, first and foremost. And then secondly, I think it's first 6 games are really challenging. And throwing a rookie out there who hasn't earned it per se would be dicey, just because you want to solve whether the rookies can play or not. I kind of go back to this with, Brock Purdy. I talked about it yesterday, where he didn't play till late in the year. Like, I think there's a world where you got to let guys who are not top of the line prospects watch the game unfold, right? Watch it happen, watch it up close and personal, see all the intricacies of the NFL level versus the college level, and go from there, right? Obviously, Dak Prescott started early for the Cowboys, another third round success story. But if you remember, it's because Tony Romo got hurt, significantly hurt, that pushed him up the line. Now, he was ready, clearly. He was pretty advanced, and it's a little different. I guess the most modern success story quickly is Russell Wilson in that third round range, right? Where he comes in and takes that job from Matt Flynn out in Seattle way back when, who they had signed on the veteran world. Everybody thought he'd be getting a real chance, but they couldn't deny it. So all I'm saying is it possible that those guys start early? Yeah, I think it is possible. They have to, though, be really, really good in every moment of the preseason in terms of action in games, the joint practices, and every other piece of training camp. I just think it's extremely challenging for your organization to sell that we are trying to win as many games as we can this year if you're putting an unprepared and overwhelmed rookie on the field just because you want to see if they're the answer. I think that would be a bad outcome. But we don't want to get too far out in front of this, which is not seeing things unfold and sort of me telling you it's impossible. I don't think it's impossible by any stretch, right? And if you want to believe, hey, Shedeur Sanders was a first-round talent who fell to the fifth, however you think he got to the fifth and however you think they're handling him, that's your choice. That's your opinion. That's fine. I think it's pretty obvious, for whatever reason, the Browns are handling him patiently, slowly, allowing him to come along with what they do at his own pace. They're not forcing it. But when the pads are on and if a guy's performing really well, they'll get a chance. So I would phrase it this way. I would be pretty damn surprised if one of these rookies is going to start the season week 1, but it's not impossible, and I don't want to put restrictions on what they can do. I continue to believe Flacco will start the year because he's the most believed veteran in the locker room that they know can show them how to win games. The veterans in that building know that. They've seen that. They've been up close and personal with that. But the idea that Flacco lasts a full season is a pipe dream at best. It's going to organically take care of itself. It's just a matter of whether one of these rookies is ready to go at the right time. So we will see. We will see. But I think a prediction of a rookie starting week 1 is a place I don't want to land until I see one of them just play lights out football throughout the entire late July, early August, and really middle August portions of this thing, where we can start to get serious and tilt our head. We'll know. You'll see it. You'll see the right things. You'll see the games. You'll see the real all 22, and then we'll have that talk. You'll know it when you see it. That's the old phrase, right? So that's today's Quarterback Buzz, brought to you by Daniel Jeremiah. We have some lingering questions I want to answer. There are 3 specific lingering questions that I have seen come up that I think are very good. And I have written down quite a few of them, and I'm always open to more of them if you'd like to share them. So send them over. 3 lingering questions that we will do right after a quick break and a word from our sponsor. All right, first lingering question is Michael Jr., his return off of the MCL tear that he suffered. Really unfortunate MCL tear that happened in that meaningless week 18 game with Baltimore. So again, that was the worst outcome possible for a guy who was really coming on late in his rookie season, launching into year 2. But anyway, from what I gather, surgery went well, rehab going well, and is working toward a full recovery that will have him in line to probably start training camp on the PUP list. So then in my hope here and what I've gathered is that he will be able to go in the later portions of training camp and be ready for a preseason game or 2, and should be ready to go for week 1. In the same time frame, David Montgomery, the running back in Detroit, he suffered an MCL tear week 15, went the route of rehabbing that over a surgery right away, hoping to come back in the playoffs. We know the Lions' playoff run was a little shorter than anyone hoped, but he is actually a full go mini camp guy. So he's ready. So the timeline, a little different with more weight bearing things that defensive tackles have to do. And obviously carrying more physical weight. But everything I gather is you shouldn't be surprised to hear that he's on PUP or some other form of injury structure here in the early portions of camp, but is ready to go late camp and later in the preseason and should be a week 1 participant ready to go. So we hope that he comes back feeling good and is ready to step in and thrive and get better, because I think with Mason Graham and the group there around those guys, there's a chance for that defensive tackle group, Malik Collins and such, to be really special. So expect a slow start for him. Expect reps to be on the lower end, but should increase and improve and be a pretty big part of the, the portion, the ending portion of the structure they have in place for the rotation, middle to late part of the year. So that's where I have gathered my call is. The next lingering question then for me is at corner, something that has come up, been discussed, that with Greg Newsome being a player, maybe they couldn't move, they couldn't find something that fit for his skill set. And with some of what Martin Emerson struggled with last year, is there a world where the Browns have Greg Newsome work more outside, which is what he did his rookie season and had some pretty good success? Like if you look at the splits and what he sort of did from his rookie year versus the next 3, I think it does bring up a pretty fair question about, would he be better suited long-term to play outside? I think obviously the Browns thought he was best suited to play outside when they drafted him. Then they took Martin Emerson and wanted to find a way to get all 3 on the field. And the quick twitch nature of what what Newsome can do, they thought made a logical shift inside to keep all 3 on the field. Now, over the course of the years, when they've gone base sets, they have put Newsome back outside. So it's not like he does not have outside experience. It's just the slot stuff has significantly upticked in terms of last year. It was a 50-50 split in terms of 275 in the slot, 247 at corner, but it has been even more so right into the slot as the heavier portion with the Schwartz experience, right? Because you got to remember, Schwartz just came in 23. So 412 to 286 the first year, but a little more even split last year. Whereas his rookie year was 102 slots and slot snaps and 517 outside. And I think that's when he was at his best. So I think if there's a future for Greg Newsome that's not being discussed, it's that he's back to being an outside corner. He's still young. He's still 25. I do think it could make plenty of sense if you look at what has he struggled with, the tackle stuff. He's not a great tackler on the inside. I would spend some time thinking this year, and especially evaluating the early portion of you can really take this back into evaluating training camp too. If Martin Emerson is struggling out there and the job's not getting accomplished, I think shifting Newsome back outside makes a ton of sense, because there's a potential future here. If he can go back to playing outside corner, fit that role again well, and be effective and be a consistent part of this defense, then there's a contract. There's a second contract to be found there. That's what I would think is the most logical. And then you're trying to attack the slot where you're like, okay, can we sign a veteran, say a Mike Hilton type? I would be very interested in that. Very interested in that. But I got to prove to myself that Emerson first is not going to rebound from last year and become who he was his first 2 years. And then second, that I can get Newsome back outside comfortably and see what he can do there, maybe in a 12-game stretch or something of the sort. I'm just saying, when you look at these guys, obviously Emerson being a long-term outside corner with the length and size and all of that is appealing. But when you look at how his body type fits and how his play style fits, you do concern yourself with how much man coverage he's able to play consistently and effectively. Whereas Newsome is a pretty good press man bail corner who can play outside pretty effectively, I think. I just think if you're like, hey, what's the future of these guys? Doesn't the most logical thing feel like Newsome going back outside and figuring out the slot through cheaper free agent market or taking some swings on late round picks, or Miles Harden can step up and play a little bit more of that role, I think it makes you think. Because if you're just evaluating Newsome on long term of being an inside corner, being a slot guy, I don't love the fit, but his best football was early in his career playing outside. So why not try that a little more consistently? That question lingers until we have an answer. I don't have a definite answer for it. It's a fair lingering question, but I would be very tempted to flirt with, especially if Emerson starts the year as poorly as he finished last, to see if there's something to having Greg Newsome play more outside corner again, because there's a contract to be signed there. A second contract for a guy who'll be 26 makes a lot of sense. And you need to justify the 5th-year option money you gave him this year. Again, makes a lot of sense. The third and final lingering question is, do the Browns need to add at wide receiver? I don't know. I don't know that answer. I don't know that Deontay Johnson is the most secure. And what I mean by this is, does Deontay Johnson have the ability to play? Yes, he can still play. But I do get concerned about a couple things. You're one injury away from having to play Mike Woods a ton or Jamari Thrash a ton. That's a fact. One injury away with their where they're currently at. They also have an unreliable role-playing wide receiver in Deontay Johnson. When he's a focal part of the offense, he fits. He'll play, he'll do a lot, be bought in from everything you gather. But when he's a role player, doesn't get the football as much as he wants or thinks he's worthy of, then you get concerned. Look at what happened in Baltimore, where he wouldn't even find the field because he didn't like it, right? Look at what happened when he exited Carolina. I'm just saying, I'm concerned. Cedric Tillman missed 2 large portions of season so far, and we know that Jerry Jeudy had a nice year last year, but the success of 17 ball games for him has not always been a guarantee. I think they need to add a wide receiver. Now, that begets a bigger lingering question. Do you go free agent market, like an Amari Cooper coming back, something of the sort there? Or do you go to the trade market and maybe look at options in Green Bay, who has a slew of wide receiver depth that is, some of which are looking for more opportunity elsewhere? Or do you go look at New England, who has some wide receiver depth that's intriguing? I am the only position that I am interested in adding a swing at a young player of relevance is wide receiver. And, most places aren't letting go of wide receivers who matter. We know that. But there are places with crowded rooms who would be looking to get something, swap something, receive something for one of these guys who they're going to have a hard time figuring out a role for. And I continue to look at Green Bay with squinted eyes, because there's a lot of bodies in that room for a situation that doesn't have a football to go around to all of them. So that's my answer. My lingering question answer for that one would be, yeah, I think they need to add one more. I understand Jamari Thrash has had a nice camp. Happy to see more of that in training camp, preseason, joint practices. But I think at the baseline, they need another player there. So I would hope there's some eagerness to solve that. And the worst, it's not the worst, that's not the right way to phrase it. The most plausible thing they could do is pick one up off the waiver wire. But that is a guy who then will be far removed, right? You don't have first and second week waiver wire anymore. You have one big NFL waiver wire. And yeah, the Browns will be at the top of it, but that's a guy you're bringing in at the end of training camp and preseason, won't be ready to impact your team early on, and will obviously be a guy who maybe by the middle of the season has a role. And that could work, right? Because you got 3 guys maybe you really want to try out, right? You want to sort of fit in, to see if Deontay Johnson and Jerry Jeudy are fine, and then maybe that works itself out organically. But I just would like to have another real wide receiver. I just don't think you need to go crazy, but I think there are enough low-level types that are worth an upside swing on to see if they fit into what you do. That's what I would lean toward. So hopefully they do that. Those are 3 lingering questions I have seen come up. If you have any other lingering questions, let me know. I would be happy to dig in on those and talk about them with you guys. That's it for today's show. So thanks for stopping by. make sure to take advantage of the 30% off through the rest of the month. You can find that link in the description of this podcast. Okay. So take advantage. Be back with more content tomorrow. I have a weekend full of things. Is currently the plan. A weekend full of things that'll pop into your inbox. So keep your eyes out for that. Have a fantastic Friday. Thanks for being here, everybody. Go Browns.